Please mute yourself. I'll ask you to unmute and as you're needed for the meeting. And you can make comments and or chat on the side using our chat box. So, welcome to the Rotary Club of Norfolk. We will be led in music by our very own Chuck Spence.
Okay. I don't see Mel Branch here. I'm going to do his favorite one because it's to the tune of On Wisconsin, but it's Sing Rotarians. I think most of you all know it. Sing Rotarian, sing Rotarian, sing with all your might. Don't let troubles get you down. Everything's all right. Open up, sing it out, make those rafters ring. Hey, friends, let's pitch right in and let's all sing. So much for hearing the pitch.
Speaking of pitch, bring it down a little, Chuck.
Yeah. The piano sitting over here, but I didn't want to reach over there. We'll finish up with America, the first verse. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's Pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring.
Thanks a lot, Chuck. You did a wonderful job. We appreciate it.
Hey, Jim, are you recording?
I am recording. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually hit this one on time.
I don't have to stay here.
And so now if you could all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I just said, yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? And Bob?
And will it be fun?
Thank you, Bob. And now Jim Baker will lead us in an invocation. Jim?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Heavenly Father, who is always with us, blessed be your name. Come into our lives. Let us know your will. Help us to live out each other's day. Give us today that is for that which we need, and help us to show forgiveness to others, just as you show your forgiveness to us. Please protect us from temptation and restore us when we fail. For everything I have comes from you, and all good things are yours. It is also, has always been and always will be, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, Jim. And now a visitation report from Joe Massey.
Jim, I have not heard from anybody this past week. So as I said last week, why don't we open up the floor and see if anybody has some information?
Okay, great idea. Anyone have any information on any of our Rotarians or family members that we should know about? Okay. Well,
I mentioned last week, my grandson Mason, he actually has his bone marrow transplant on this Thursday, the day after tomorrow. So his sister is the donor and he's the recipient.
yeah. We hope that all goes well, Chuck.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything? Okay. Let's move along then. I did not see any guests here other than our guest speaker. But it's great to see all of our members here. That's wonderful. Our school of the week this week is Fairlawn Elementary School. Today's rotation scribe is Diana Starkey with a little help from Zoom. One of the things that we have found is, in a pinch, if rotations gets, or if our scribe gets a little discombobulated, it's good that we're recording these things. So that's where we are with that. A few items of club business. First, we would like to acknowledge that one of our newer members has achieved their blue badge. So Chris Bug, welcome to the blue badge holders.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I think you are one of the fastest people I've seen who's ever accomplished that. So nicely done, sir.
Wow, you made it sound like I was lagging really far behind when we went out to pick up
Well,
trash.
that's just because some mentors are harder than others. Okay, World Polio Day and a club initiative. Sigger, you have the floor.
Thank you, President Jim. So World Polio Day is this Saturday, and it is on the 24th of October. And it is on that particular day because that is the birthday of Jonas Salk. So for our younger members, who is Jonas Salk? Well, back in the earlier days, and I'm going to talk about the 50s, although it was before that, polio was quite feared. And in fact, in the summer, lots of times children weren't permitted to go out and play, or they weren't permitted to go to the swimming hole because their parents were afraid that they would catch polio. And polio could be devastating. You could use the loss of a limb, or if things were worse, you could end up in an iron lung to help you breathe until your muscles regain some strength. Or in the ultimate worst thing, you could die. So this was very much of a feared disease, kind of like coronavirus is to us today. So Jonas Salk came up with a vaccine, and it eliminated polio from America pretty quickly because there was a massive, oops, that's my dog. There was a massive polio immunization campaign going on. And anyway, in 1986, Rotary went to polio to help cure polio, immunize kids in the Philippines. And that led to Rotary becoming involved in an initiative to eradicate polio from the world. And it's been a highly successful campaign. The problem is, or the challenge is, partly caused by COVID, we have kind of slowed down in our immunization of children. But still, we are only 2 countries in the nation that have wild polio virus going on, and those are Afghanistan and Pakistan, but yet we still have to vaccinate children in high-risk areas such as Africa and India. So on October 24th, this Saturday, there is going to be a telethon from 10:45 to 2 o'clock on Facebook Live. You can sign up for it on DACTV. Now, for the special being run by Norfolk Rotary, and we know that you all like a deal, is that if you contribute to the polio part of the Rotary Foundation from $50 up to $500, the club will match with points your contribution, which means if you give $50, then you will in fact get credit towards your next Paul Harris or your first Paul Harris membership for $100. So that's what we're offering. It's good only on October 24th. To do this, you would have to go to My Rotary, which is part of Rotary.org. And if you don't already have a Rotary.org account, you need to institute it the day before so that it will recognize you as a member. but that's our special. If you decide to participate, send me a note because I won't know how much you've contributed, and it goes by the 4-way test. So that's it, President Jim. Sorry that my dogs decided to bark at a truck going down the lane.
That's okay. Thanks, Sigger. And yes, that will cost you $5 for your dog.
I'm going to mute myself real quickly.
Okay. Well,
Hey,
thank you for
Jim.
sharing. Yes.
Jim, I have a question. Does the gift have to be on Saturday, the 24th?
Yes, it
Okay.
does.
And
World
it has
Polio
to
Day.
be directed specifically to polio.
Right.
Will an email or something come out reminding us?
Yes, I will
Yes.
send them out Friday.
Yeah, it'll either come from Sigger or myself, and it'll go to everyone in the club as a reminder. Okay, Sigger, thank you very much.
You're most
Moving right along, this coming on Thursday at 9 o'clock, the club is once again having a service project which will allow us to meet safely outdoors. We'll be meeting at Poplar Hall Park for a cleanup in conjunction with Keep Norfolk Beautiful. So there is on the website, there's a sign up link. Also in my president's message that went out to you, there was also a link that you could simply click on and sign up. You know, it's a fun way to get out. It's a fun way to see some folks, you know, and we're doing some good in the community. So I hope as many of you will take advantage of that as possible. The holiday social is still in its early stages of planning. I'm going to send, you know, I got a very good response from folks who have been on the Zoom meetings. What you can expect from me, and I'm kind of preaching to the choir since you are the folks on the Zoom meeting, is we want to get a good feel from the club as a whole. So I'm going to send out a specific email asking if folks are willing and interested in attending so that we can sort of fine tune our planning on that. I know that Pam has been exploring various venues. I know one of the things that she is focused on is something that is open and airy and spacious and allows us to do this in a safe manner. So, so we will get more information out to you as soon as possible. Also want to encourage all of you to be kind at the next meeting. Our next meeting is, I think, is actually Election Day. And this will be, Michael Desplaines will be sitting in for me as president and will be running that. So I just encourage you all to be kind and also to be cautious because he is a lot quicker with a fine trigger than I am. So just be forewarned. Be forewarned. We now move to the part of the program where we try to raise money for Norfolk Rotary charities, and that's fines and happy bucks. I've already hit Sigger with a $5 fine for her barking dog. I'm also going to fine myself because last meeting I hit the record button late, and that made things a little bit difficult for our scribe. So I'll be chipping in also. And I'll also add a little extra money to that because the Army football team is now 5-1. And I expect Mr. Bug to contribute for the Naval Academy. They had a nice win against East Carolina. Who else has happy bucks?
Jim, I cannot believe it, but last week, October 13th, was the birthday of the U.S. Navy, and nobody said beans about it. You know, I made Navy beans, but anyway, I'm contributing $10 plus $2.45, those pennies, 245 years of the United States Navy of happy bucks for my organization. And that of so many of our fellow Rotarians.
Well, congratulations to the Navy and anchors away.
Yay.
Anyone else with some good news to share?
The fact that you said acres away, I have to pay you $20.
Thank you, Joe. Eleanor,
I need to add to the $10. I'll add $10 for the Navy.
okay. Eleanor, thank you. Anyone else have some good news to share? Anyone else want to confess to a finable event?
Hey, Jim, I'll add $10 in honor of my dad, who was a Navy guy, and he was also Rotarian for 50 years.
Ooh.
So I'll do that.
All right. Thank you, Chick. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do some bucks because I want to give an opportunity out to everybody. We have a courtyard here at Prime Plus that the COVID kind of took over, and I need a couple of people to come in on whenever it's convenient to help pull some weeds. And if I can get 3 people to volunteer, I'll turn over $20.
Okay.
Give me an email if you want, or
Okay.
chat with me. But
Okay.
I'll do $20 anyway.
Okay. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll get at least 3 people.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hey,
All
Jim,
right.
I'll just go ahead and tell Bob, reach out to me or send me an email when he's ready to pull weeds and let me know when he wants to do it. And I'll be one of the 3.
Yeah. And Bob Solai, Chick, if you and Bob can figure out the day, I'm happy to go down and help.
And I will too if it's next week. I won't be back in Norfolk until Saturday.
Then let's make it next Saturday.
The 31st?
Yep.
The 31st, I can't. I have a wedding. I
It's
can.
not yours, right?
It's not my wedding. No. I've already paid for my 34th wedding anniversary this month.
You're still in training.
I can do during the week also if that's convenient for anyone.
Okay. Well, send me an email. I'll shoot out an email and we'll figure out a time.
Okay, that
Thank
sounds
you.
good. All right, thank you. Also wanted to let everyone know, and it's appropriate because it is Saturday is World Polio Day, and our fashion model, Pam Tubbs, we have some T-shirts available in varying colors and varying sizes. We have red and purple that are available. And if you're interested in a T-shirt, either long sleeve or short sleeve, if you just want to shoot me either a message in the chat room that you would like one, the T-shirts are $19 each, and that's us giving them to you at our cost. So we have several available. If you can chat me with what you would like or want to just give me a call or an email, I'll be happy to get one to you.
And $1 of that has already gone to End Polio Now.
And $1 of the 19 is already going to End Polio Now. So let me know if you're interested. I appreciate that. Our vice president in charge of programs is
President Jim.
Yes.
District conference.
Thank you. Yes. District conference is November 6th through 8th. There is still time to sign up on the district website. I know we have several members of the club who have already signed up. There will be, you can attend in person, you can attend virtually, and also there are various meal plans. You can sign up for individual meals if you'd like to go to certain meals while you're there, or you can sign up for a meal plan for the entire weekend. I know they're getting a phenomenal deal at the new Oceanfront Marriott. So if you wish to stay there, it's a very nice hotel. My wife and I actually stayed there a couple of weeks ago. They've done a very nice job. They do a good job of keeping things safe, and would love it if if we had a fair number of people involved in that one way or the other. Okay, with that, let's move on. Our Vice President in charge of programs is Lori Harrison. And Lori, from Buffalo, you have the floor.
Yes, all the way from Buffalo, New York. Anyways, our Rotarian of the day is Kelly Stefanko. And I'm really excited about our speaker today because we all met in Lead Hampton Roads. But Kelly has been a member for 4 years. She was actually doing boot camp with Sally Hartman when she was president, and Sally recruited her to the Rotary Club of Norfolk. Her favorite part is the people. She feels like she's met a second family and lifelong friends at the Rotary Club, even though she's only known us for a couple of years. And her fun fact is that she's been working at home for over 10 years for the federal government, and she wants to welcome all of us who have just started working or teleworking to the club. So that's all I know about Kelly. She's going to introduce our speaker.
Super. Thank you so much, Lori. And it's my pleasure and honor to introduce our speaker. As Lori said, in 2018, Lori and I were classmates with Jeremy in the Lead Hampton Roads Best Class Ever. And at the time, he was general counsel and human resource manager at Joe Kell Incorporated, which is in Chesapeake. But after that, in August 2019, he became vice president of investments for Bonaventure, which is a real estate business in Arlington, where his responsibilities include the development of strategy and handling of the rezoning and entitlement process for all of Bonaventure development projects. He spent more than a decade in private law practice at well-respected firms in Alexandria, Virginia, and in Norfolk as well. So despite all that career experience, you may not believe it if you see his baby face over there, but he's not even 40 years old yet. And so he really is setting the bar high and challenging stereotypes of the millennial generation and having done so much already. So I was shocked to hear that Jeremy was going to be our guest speaker talking about a fictional book he authored, because I thought, as a successful lawyer, a husband, and a father of 3, how in the world did he have time to research and write a novel? In researching the book, he's going to discuss with you today, and I'm just going to share my screen and show you that, which is The Life and Trials of the Gentleman Pirate, Major Stede Bonnet. It was just published in September 15th. I was surprised to find out that it's not even his first book. So he tells the story in the foreword of this new book, which was also reported in the Virginian Pilot, if you guys saw that article, that in the days before his second son was born, he would take his oldest son, who was a year old at the time, out on weekend mornings to give his then pregnant wife a rest. And one morning, he was there at 3 Ships Coffee in Virginia Beach, and he picked up a book of local ghost stories and was intrigued by stories of Blackbeard the pirate, who shared this rich history with Virginia Beach. And as he read, he noticed references to this lesser known compatriot, Major Stede Bonnet, and thus the telling of the tempestuous life and trials of the man known as the Gentleman Pirate. So without further ado, I present to you Jeremy Moss.
Wow, thank you for that introduction. Yes, I do have a baby face, and I always joke that it's my smashing good looks and boyish charm that has got me this far, and hopefully I'll hold on to it for the next couple of decades, but we'll see. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and kind of get started with the conversation. Let's see, share this one. There we go. I think that should be good to go. Everybody can see my screen, right? I've got a presentation up. Perfect. Again, thank you for that introduction, Kelly. Unfortunately, the pronunciation of my name is a little off. I tend to describe myself or my author name as Jeremy R. Moss, throwing in that little pirate twinge. I am a Chesapeake native, graduated from Indian River High School, go Braves. I am a husband. My wife, Katie, is from Chesapeake as well. Father of 3 little boys, 5 years old, 3 years old, and 11 months old. As Kelly mentioned, I'm an author, but I do have a day job. And I expect after this book, I will continue to have a day job. And even after the next one, we'll probably continue to have a day job. So it's a passion of mine. I love talking about it. And hopefully this story, which is actually a true story, is going to be compelling and interesting. And it's such a great story. And I really hope to have done it some justice. We're going to kind of talk through a tale today of one of history's lesser known, but I think most interesting pirates. hopefully lesser known for not for long as we start to talk about him. I'm happy to address, just as an administrative matter, any questions that you have. Feel free to park them in the chat. At the end of the conversation, we can talk about that. I'll set aside 10 minutes or so as well to get through that. Also, I am, as you can imagine, with 3 little boys under 5, consistently caffeinated is how I describe it. So if you are watching me on video, I will tend to kind of sway back and forth. I'm used to being able to walk. All right, with that, let's move on. So Stede Bonnet's story really has it all. It's got failed relationships, midlife crisis, politics, plunder, trials, tribulation, the highest of highs, the lowest of lows. It's got excessive drinking, mostly of rum, and it's got deep-rooted feelings of longing and also of isolation. So in a way, it really sounds a lot like my life during the pandemic. Stuck in my house here in Alexandria with 3 little boys. And for those of you that own small businesses, you're probably feeling about the same way. Let's see. So who in the world is Stede Bonnet? I know that a lot of us have not been exposed to him. You know, Stede Bonnet was living the life at age 28. He was rich. He was married with 3 children, well married, I should say. He and his family lived on a 400-acre sugar plantation on a lush Caribbean island. And then for some reason, Bonnet left it all behind. He became a pirate. And in the early 1700s, Bonnet spent portions of his criminal career looting ships all along the Virginia Beach coast, and then all along the East Coast as well. We're going to focus more on the Virginia Beach side today. Bonnet's true life pirate tale is the subject of my new book. It came out on September 15th. It's available wherever books are sold. And you know, to my surprise, has gotten a lot of praise, and particularly in the colonial history, maritime piracy community, as offering some unique insights about, like I said, a very little known pirate. Kelly did a nice job describing kind of the how the book was created. You know, as a Chesapeake native, I now work full-time in Alexandria. But 3 years ago, my family and I were living in Algonquin Park in Norfolk. And on the weekends, as Kelly said, I would take my 1-year-old son and we would go on excursions in the mornings on Saturdays. We'd usually split our time between Slover Library, downtown, one of our favorite spots. Or if we were up too early to go to Slover, we would head down to Virginia Beach to put our feet in the sand. One morning, we popped into one of my favorite little coffee shops. It's called 3 Ships. It's right there behind the WRV in Virginia Beach. It's rustic, it's quaint. It's always vibrant, which is helpful to kind of drown out the babbles of a 1-year-old. And it's full of really interesting pictures and paintings. That day, as Kelly mentioned, I thumbed through a book about local ghost stories. I think it's called Haunted Virginia Beach. And it included the history of another man that I was surprised to hear about. That's Blackbeard the pirate. I was fascinated and realized that I had really been ignorant to a lot of the history that had happened in Hampton Roads, and I wanted to learn more. When I got home that day, I decided I was going to keep researching Blackbeard. And here's a photograph of Blackbeard. You can see he's got that long kind of straggly beard. He has fuses in his hat, which he lit on fire when he would go into battle. And I realized as I started to do research that there was a real dearth. There was a real missing link in scholarly research about pirates. There was a lot of romanticized lore. So Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island, Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean, they've done a tremendous amount of romanticizing of pirates, which we carry with us today as we talk about them. And as I was reading, I kept coming across one of the lesser known contemporaries, this guy, Stede Bonnet. And Stede wasn't your typical pirate. Most of the pirates of that age had turned to piracy because they had no other choice. The War of Spanish Succession ended in the early 1700s, and it left royal mariners from France, England, and Spain all without jobs. They had all been privateers where they were acting on behalf of a government to take ships and plunder them and destroy them for purposes of war. And once the peace accords were signed, all of those sailors with tremendous amount of maritime experience were back on land looking for other options. And there simply weren't many options. Now, by the time Stede Bonnet was born in 1688, Barbados was a Caribbean hub that had matured. So Barbados, for those that know the Caribbean or don't, is what they call a windward island. They are on the far eastern side of the Caribbean. And of course, the Caribbean is heavily influenced by the Gulf Stream, which runs up and along the Gulf of Mexico, past the East Coast, and then hangs right and goes toward England. And when you're in the windwardmost islands, it gives you a few advantages. First, you get early news reports. It's one of the very first places where people would land. It's the furthest east. Second, if you leave and head west from Barbados, it's very difficult to turn back around and go east against that wind. The Gulf Stream provides a tremendous strategic military advantage as those winds blow from east to west in that region. So it kept it very well protected from people like pirates. It's very hard for pirates to approach from the west. And in order to get there from the east, you had to travel very far north. So once you left Barbados, you were gone for a while. The early settlers of Barbados really kind of struggled to find viable money-making crops. But eventually they settled on early sugar production, and it reaped huge benefits for the Barbadian economy. In fact, at one point they said that Barbados was wealthier than London itself, in that it brought a tremendous number of sugar farmers, laborers, slave ships, and they looked at African slaves as a cheap labor source. And it really became kind of the first slave society in the New World, which kind of set the tone for a lot of how the New World was developed. Now, Steed's father, Edward, was a second generation farmer. And when Steed was only 6, Steed's father passed away. Not long after, Steed's mother also passed away. He was orphaned at a very young age, and a guardian took control of this 400-acre sugarcane field and held it until Steed became of age, 18. He inherited a bustling estate, 400 acres of sugarcane fields, 2 windmills, cattle-driven mill, 3 servants, multiple slaves. And by the time he was 11, he had stayed in school with what they called a very liberal education. Now, when Steed reached the age of 21, he married a young lady named Mary Allenby. She was a 16-year-old daughter of another plantation owner in Barbados, and was an indication of Steed's status. He married up. He did very well for himself. They would eventually have 4 children, 3 sons, which might sound familiar from my introduction, and then a daughter. Now, Steed's first son died early in childhood, which was not uncommon for the time. I think he was 3 years old when he passed away in 1715. Eventually, Steed was sworn in as Justice of the Peace in Barbados, and like other gentlemen at the time, he lived a civil, generous, hospitable, and very sociable life. Really, because of the nature of Barbados, they acted as little sovereigns, right? Little kings and queens on their plantations. But even in the midst of this bounty, for some reason, Steed Bonnet simply just didn't adjust well to married life. The reasons for these discomforts of his marriage are not really well preserved. There is a well-known historian from 1724, Captain Johnson, who described his wife's Mary's nagging as a reason that Steed got a, quote, humor to go a pirating. So his wife and children, as those that may have had young families, it was too much for him. He couldn't handle it. So he took his money, took out a loan for 400 pounds, the equivalent of several $1 million. And he decided that he was going to go buy a pirate ship. At the same time, in December of 1716, there was a young trading captain that sailed down to the Barbados from Rhode Island. He had a small sloop called the Revenge. And when he parked it in 1716, I don't know that he had any idea what was about to happen. Steed Bonnet approached him at the wharf and bought his sloop outright, almost $400,000 in current money, and commissioned the local shipyard to add this 12 guns and get it ready for war. Now, whether Bonnet actually explained the purchase of the ship to his wife, we don't know. The reality is that some of these pleasure boats, as they do today, people buy boats, were not uncommon in Barbados, and people would buy these sloops and sail them around, particularly as they had sugar and other things to offload into the port towns in order to be shipped out to the back to England. Now, make no mistake, Bonnet was a landsman. He had no understanding of maritime affairs, and although he may have read about it, he had no idea what made a good ship and what did not. To sail the Revenge, Bonnet needed to find his own crew. The thought of Stede Bonnet enlisting this crew is almost comical. Here's a wood carving of Bonnet from 1724. And you can picture this. He's got this woolen overcoat, a tricorn or cocked hat trimmed in gold, a fashionable wig, silk stockings, leather pointed shoes, gold buckles. He would have stood out significantly against these tanned, salted men of the wharfs and shipyards of Barbados. And while Bonnet may have found some eager crewmen, there were a lot of small masses of desperate men in Barbados. He would have also probably run into some resistance. It's a great quote from the time that says, "No man will be a sailor who has contrivance enough to get himself into a jail. For being in a ship is being in a jail with the chance of being drowned." So it was well known at the time how dangerous this could be, but nonetheless, Bonnet persisted. So Bonnet spent the early months of 1717 getting his affairs straight at home, and in March, he drew up a power of attorney for his wife and family, and he sailed out of Barbados in April or May 1777. The written record's not clear, and I've included a copy of the written record on this slide. You can see here it says, "Gone without clearing, the Revenge, April or May 13th. And ignoring the requirement that every ship be cleared before they leave Barbados for customs reasons, within the first hour of Bonnet's journey, he had already broken the law and was already on the run. From Barbados, Bonnet made his way north. He passed through Jamaica. There is a reference to him being there for a very short time, and made his way to Virginia. This map here, which I have on the screen, is called the John Smith map of Virginia. It was published first in the early 1600s, 1612 to be exact. And it is a traditional map for mariners, meaning that they put the water at the bottom, and the way that you would typically travel is pointed upward. So here you have Cape Henry in the bottom left corner across from Cape Charles, some other landmarks that still exist today. Of course, Chesapeake is still there, which is listed near in the bottom left corner. And Point Comfort is there as well, which is a part of Hampton. The Virginia Capes had for a number of years been really popular destinations for pirates. And this is the part that I was particularly surprised of. The first story that I came across relates to College of William and Mary. And if we have any College of William and Mary graduates or parents of graduates, we may know this story. But in June of 1688, there were 3 pirates, one of them very well known for circumnavigating the globe previously. They were arrested near Old Point Comfort in Hampton, Virginia. They were toting around 3 chests heavily laden with pieces of 8 and silver plate. They were arrested and held in the Williamsburg jail. And after several years of legal wrangling, they enlisted the legal services and influence of a young attorney named Micaiah Perry, who filed a petition in London to recover the chests and contents from the king. Eventually, the 3 pirates were taken to England and visited in London by a gentleman named Reverend James Blair. James Blair was working on the establishment of a school in Virginia and negotiated a pledge for the pirates, basically some community service. And by a letter to the king and queen, King William and Queen Mary, in 1691, Reverend Blair certified that the pirates had devoted 300 pounds for the carrying on of the pious design of a free school and college in Virginia. So in February of 1693, with a combination of that 300 pounds, approximately $12 million, and another 700 pounds extracted by the monarchy from the pirates, the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg was established. So as you hear about this esteemed school, that the education place of Thomas Jefferson, know that it was established in part using pirate money. The other story that's fascinating to me relates to Le Pays, which is the Peace. It's commanded by a gentleman named Louis Guitard, who had entered the Chesapeake Bay and been in the Lynnhaven Inlet. And he was attacking ships all throughout the Lynnhaven Inlet. The governor of Virginia at the time, a gentleman named Governor Nicholson, decided he had had enough. He boarded the battleship Shoreham, stood on the deck, and watched the entire battle unfold as 1,671 cannonballs were sent out in the Lynnhaven River against this pirate. Eventually, 40 pirates were killed and 120 were taken prisoner. So there are literally thousands of cannonballs that line the bottom of the Lynnhaven River. Bonnet enjoyed some early success in Virginia. Here's a map of current Hampton roads. It says early Hampton roads, but let's talk about what still exists that existed at the time. First of all, here's your Rotary Club office, right? So it's in downtown Norfolk. We've got Cape Henry, Cape Charles, still in existence today. Those capes established the entryway to the Chesapeake Bay that pirates and mariners knew that that's how you would get to Norfolk, established in the late 1600s, and also to Hampton and the capital, Jamestown and Williamsburg. Lynnhaven River is here. This is a tavern, the Pleasure House Tavern, right? Which was one of the early taverns. Pleasure House Road still exists. And Bonnet and Blackbeard may have enjoyed drinks, cocktails at that tavern. Here's Point Comfort in Hampton, which is where Blackbeard was eventually, his body was disposed of. And here's the capitals of Williamsburg and Jamestown at the time. Interestingly, Bonnet would have used the topography of Virginia Beach for his advantage. Right off Shore Drive, there's a small island called Blackbeard's Fort. And the story is that Bonnet and his men would stand on this elevated surface and look east towards First Landing State Park, what is now First Landing State Park. There's a very large sand dune that they would have sentries on. And as ships would come into the Chesapeake and the Lynnhaven, they would light a fire. The sentries would alert somebody that was parked in Lake Joyce on this island. They would get in their ship, go out into the Lynnhaven River, and take the rest of the ships. Here you can see Lake Joyce on the left-hand side. At the time was connected by a waterway deep enough for the draft of a ship to go back into Lynnhaven Inlet and then head out into the Chesapeake Bay. Here's that Lesnar Bridge area. Again, that Lynnhaven Inlet was used to access. Now, when Bonnet left Virginia, he headed to New York, which was a very heavily pirated area, very pirate friendly. He eventually took a couple ships, bought some provisions, and his inexperience showed. He had no idea where he was going to go next. His crew decided to go to Florida and fish on some wrecks of some ships that had dropped gold not far from the shore of Florida. And he ran into a Spanish man of war. He decided he was going to try to take the ship in a big battle, was almost killed, injured, and they limped back to the Bahamas. It's at this point that the history of piracy changes forever. Bonnet meets Blackbeard the pirate, Edward Teach, who at the time was just a little known pirate that had a ship with only 6 guns. He and Bonnet struck a deal, which the book will describe more, struck a deal and perused the East Coast, taking literally dozens of ships together, blockading the city of Charleston and just creating havoc. It's interesting because Blackbeard the pirate, as well known as he is, could not be where he was without Stede Bonnet's ship. And the book describes in significant detail some of their exploits, which I think are very interesting. Eventually, Bonnet and Blackbeard would both give themselves up for a government pardon. And in 1717, Blackbeard intentionally ran his ship aground in what's now called Beaufort Inlet in North Carolina. In fact, his ship is currently being excavated over a long period of time through what's called the Queen Anne's Revenge Project. Bonnet gave himself up and eventually tried to sail down to St. Thomas for purposes of getting a privateering license to sail against the French. He eventually fell back, though, like a dog goes to his vomit, as one historian called it, and pirated other ships. Eventually, he took several others, went to the Cape Fear River, and the governor of South Carolina heard that there were pirates in the Cape Fear. Sent a fleet to the Cape Fear and had one of the largest naval battles at the time, the careening of the Cape, called the Battle of the Cape Fear. At the same time, Blackbeard, who had moved away from Bonnet, had met his match as well. Virginia's then governor, Alexander Spotswood, so you might know Spotswood Avenue right off Hampton Boulevard. Spotswood had grown tired of pirates and vowed to kind of fish them out from the areas. So even though he didn't have authority to do so, Spotswood sent a militia down to North Carolina to hunt for Blackbeard. Blackbeard was killed in a large naval battle in November of 1718, and his head, the myth provides, was brought back to Hampton and hung on a pole to warn other pirates to stay away from Virginia. Bonnet had been incarcerated, and the book details a daring escape from Bonnet, where he dressed up in women's clothes, and how the women in Charleston knew that he was jailed, helped him get to a canoe and sail out. Now, the second half of the book, for those that might be interested in legal history, includes a full court transcript that I located in the Library of Congress records from England. And basically, it includes a full transcript of a 4-day trial against Stede Bonnet. Eventually, for a spoiler alert, Bonnet was found guilty of all the crimes that he had committed on the high seas. And in December of 1718, he was hung in Charleston. Now, the story is fascinating, and to discuss it in 20 minutes makes it a little difficult. But there's a couple of things that I think are interesting to highlight while I have a couple minutes. The first thing is everything that we think that we know about pirates is really all Robert Louis Stevenson's fault, right? Treasure Island has done more for our thinking about what pirates were. The popularity from Treasure's Island really spawned a whole genre of pirate novels. And not all of them have it right. The first myth is about buried treasure. So when Bonnet was attracted to New York early in his career, there is a story of Captain Kidd having been the only pirate to have ever buried treasure. You know, pirates didn't expect to live very long. You know, considering that the business that they were in, planning for their future wasn't necessarily high on their list, right? There was no pirate 401k, although there was a pirate, believe it or not, workers' compensation policy. So pleasure was right there, their only desire. And they took whatever treasure they had to a pirate-friendly port and typically spent it all. History doesn't support the theory that there is any buried treasure really anywhere. The other thing that was interesting is walking the plank. So in all of my research, a lot of historians point to Stede Bonnet, the gentleman pirate, as being the single pirate to have made his victims walk the plank. And I couldn't find a single bit of evidence to say that that was done. In fact, the pirate's preferred means of punishment is even worse. It's called keel hauling. And there's no evidence that Bonnet did that either. But walking the plank did become very common in the 1800s for people that committed mutiny. The other thing that I thought was interesting is all this talk about pirates speak, right? So when I did the introduction to myself, I said my name was Jeremy R. Moss. And I'm sure this may surprise you, but in reality, we all talk very much like the pirates did. Pirates were known as being kind of early colonial Americans. They had something called rhotic English, which is they pronounced their R's. So if you go to Boston, what do? They park the car, right? They don't say they park the car. So as pirates evolved in their speak, because a lot of them were Scots and a lot of them came from colonial America at the time, they said their R's. And it's through this pronunciation of the R, car, park, that there was a history of attributing the R sound to pirates. So it's not even necessarily like it was a Canadian A, right? Like something you would just say as a quip. It's simply that they pronounce their R's. And somehow we've figured that out and said we've attributed the R sound to them. There were women pirates. And then also the thing that I think is interesting is about eye patches. My research confirmed that hundreds of pirates did in fact wear eye patches, although there's a difference in opinion about why they did. The most prevalent is pirates use something called a sextant to determine where they are in the world. Basically, it requires that you line yourself up using the sun and use the angle of the sun and the timing determine your general geographic location and direction. As you can imagine, staring at the sun for a prolonged period of time with a single eye creates issues with your eyesight. So many lost their sight using a sextant. The other theory, which I thought was interesting, is that they use the eye patch in order to do battle. They do battle on the upper decks, which is bright and sunny and outdoors. But as soon as they got below deck, which you can imagine had no artificial lighting, it took several seconds for their eyes to adjust. And in the heat of a battle, going down into a lower deck without the ability to adjust your eyesight quickly could mean a death sentence for you. So a lot of pirates would wear this eye patch as a way to, as soon as they left the upper deck, go to the lower deck, flip their eye patch up. Their eye had already been dilated using the darkness of the patch, and they could commence battle as soon as they got to the bottom. And that's it. The life and trials of Stede Bonnet in 20 minutes. As I said, there's a tremendous amount of history in Hampton Roads. One thing that I was so interested in doing, and I hope that I've done well in the book, is to put some of that local history in perspective. So for some of you that have grown up in Hampton Roads, been to Virginia Beach, been through the Lynnhaven River, maybe crabbed off the Lesnar Bridge, or the old Lesnar Bridge, I should say. I think there's a lot of fascinating tales that will bring you a little bit closer to the history of your hometown. Of course, I'd love for you to stay in touch. If you have questions, I'm happy to talk through some of those. My email is here. Feel free to write me. Check out my website. You can follow me on Twitter if you're interested. And with that, I'll open it for questions.
Thank you, Jeremy. We have our first question from Kelly.
Jeremy, that was great. I really like the Google map, like you said, showing where we are and, where the pirates may have been. But I did some research, kind of preparing for this, and I was so intrigued. Like you said, it's Stede Bonnet was kind of a lesser known pirate, but Assassin's Creed has like a whole storyline with him. I don't know if you saw that in your research too. And
Sure.
In fact, there's like a video where somebody's comparing, the character versus, the research on it. And so I guess getting all the research that you did for your book, I wasn't clear if your book is, if you consider it nonfiction and it's, again, a lot of the research you've gotten, or if it is a fictional tale in the book.
Yeah, that's a great question. I consider it, for purposes of a genre, as narrative nonfiction. What I've attempted to do in the book is to tie in firsthand accounts of their lives, letters from governors, letters from captains, depositions, trial documents, these firsthand accounts into a book that reads like a fictional novel. So hopefully it reads like a historical fiction novel, although 99% of what it is true. I try not to make any leaps of faith. In fact, wherever I make an assumption, I say it outright. But a majority of it is going to be true. So, and you're right, that what I've noticed about people that like pirates, and you see these at Renaissance fairs and Blackbeard festivals and other things, is it is a passionate fandom. It is a group of people that love what they do. And the amount of people that dress up and play pirate video games and watch pirate movies is pretty remarkable. And I was also surprised to see that Assassin's Creed video game that you mentioned on PlayStation, that they had taken Bonnet, who I thought was lesser known, and made him a central key character. So it is interesting.
There you go. Any of you guys that have grandkids that play PlayStation, now you have something to talk to your grandkids about, right? Stede Bonnet.
There you go.
Any other questions for Jeremy?
I've got a question, Jim. This is Colin.
Sure. Hey, Colin.
Jeremy, first of all, kudos for pursuing this interest, passion, whatever, with the other things you've got going on in your life with
Sure.
kids and your work. It's fun to see somebody that really goes for that. Makes for a busy life, I'm sure. My wife and I have been watching the TV series Outlander, which is based on the book series about Scots coming over to the United States, specifically North Carolina. And there's a character named Stephen Bonnet,
That's right.
who is an orphan and a pirate who plays a pretty big part, in the later part of the series. And I was wondering if there's any parallel, or if the Diana Gabaldon, the woman who wrote the books, kind of appropriated that name after doing some research as you have. Do you know if there's any relationship?
Yeah. My understanding, at least Wikipedia will tell you that there is an influence of Stede Bonnet on Stephen Bonnet. So it's not the first time I've heard that, and I'm aware of it. I've not seen the Outlander series, but my understanding is that the author of that series has pulled bits and pieces of the story, was influenced certainly by Stede. Stede, of course, is not a name that you would hear often. So I think she's appropriated the name Stephen to make it more relatable. But yeah, absolutely. There are certainly some parallels there. which is interesting. There's going to be a new HBO series, comedy series written about Stede Bonnet specifically. So, you know, the entertainment and media are starting to find these stories. And I think that the internet has done a lot to help us with that. So even reading books from the 1970s, they simply didn't have access to the number of resources that I did. So you're filling in a lot of gaps at that time that we can fill in now with actual firsthand resources. But yeah, it's pirate tales have been pervasive in a lot of what we've done. It's a great question. I'm glad you noticed that.
Thanks.
We have a question from Barb Lifflin asking, is your book available locally?
Yes, it's a great question. Thank you for asking that too. Of course, the book is available, would I say, wherever books are sold. So you can go on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and do all that. But what I'd encourage you to do if you're interested in checking out the book is go to a website called Indie Bound, INDIE, like independent bound. And you can search for local bookstores that allow online purchases. So Prince Books, which is right in downtown Norfolk, uses this feature. So if you get a Prince book, you can certainly order my book through them. And I'd encourage you to go to your independent or local bookseller to do it. It will take a couple days, 1 to 5 days to get it in stock. I don't think Prince has one in stock anymore. But by all means, please go to your independent booksellers who are all hurting right now for our business. So.
Hey, Jeremy.
Yes.
Just a quick question. You're second to the last slide, that historical marker. Where is that located?
Yeah, good question. This is actually, I took this picture 2 weeks ago in Charleston. It's in a little place called White Garden along the Battery in Charleston, which is the spot in which Stede Bonnet was hung. And I included it because there's still a marker there today. Of course, I was there 2 weeks ago. That has been there since the early 1900s to talk about Stede Bonnet and other pirates at the time that had been hung. So,
right.
Still a very relevant current marker in Charleston.
Hey,
South-
Jeremy, as a South Carolinian, I have to point out that it's pronounced the Battery.
Battery. I'm sorry. I am
Yes,
sorry.
yes. It's where the the Ashley and the Cooper rivers converge to form the Atlantic Ocean.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah.
Spoken like a true South Carolinian. That's right. It's a beautiful place.
Any other questions? All right. Well, Jeremy, one of the things that we've been doing at some recent meetings is we have been auctioning off an item to help raise money for the fight against polio. And my understanding is you've been gracious enough to donate a signed copy of one of your books. And so I'd like to open up the bidding on a copy of your book.
Here's your copy.
There's our copy. It'll be signed for us or for the winner. And I would like to open up the bidding at $35. Do I have $35?
Here.
Michael Desplaines, $35. Do I have $40? $40.
40.
40 from Bob Batcher. Do I have 45? Do I have $45? Michael Desplaines comes back at $45. I'm sensing a battle here.
Only because it's Michael, 50.
Okay. Bob is at $50. Do I have 55?
I'll do 75.
Michael Desplaines ups the ante at $75. $75. Anyone else? $80. Do I have $80? $80 so you can work on your best pirate voice and read a wonderful story.
And dress like him next meeting, Michael.
Well, acting President Michael, we have the gauntlet has just been laid. You're going to be dressing as a pirate for the next one.
Every crew needs a captain. So,
do I have $80? $80 going once, $80 going twice. Sold to Michael. Jeremy, thank you very much for allowing us to raise this money for our fight against polio. I have your email address, and we'll figure out how to get that to Michael.
Yeah, just share. Maybe just send it to Michael, and Michael, if you'll reach out, we can talk about whoever you'd like me to sign it to, and then I'll send it by media mail to you. Thank you.
Okay. Well, perfect. Well, thank you very much. Jeremy, our club is very committed to youth literacy. And one of the things that we do for our guest speakers is that we donate a book in your honor, very appropriate for an author, and it's donated to our School of the Week. So this week, a book in your honor commemorating your presentation today will be sent to Fairlawn Elementary School. So thank you very much. It was a great presentation, and we certainly appreciate your time. So with that, our next meeting is going to be a Zoom meeting also. It will be on November 3rd. As I mentioned, Michael Desplaines will be our president for that day. And our guest speaker will be Sigurd Whitaker, who will be discussing and has a guest that will be joining her to discuss the Rotary Foundation. So thank you all for your time. I hope you have a wonderful week. And just remember, we're not meeting next week. Our next meeting will be on November 3rd. So great to see everyone, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Arr. Lorna, how are you? You're muted.
Lisa Chandler had asked for the Venmo address.
Yeah, I just saw that. I was just going to shoot her an email.
Yeah, okay, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
All right, good meeting. That was fun.
I thought it was good. I thought he did a great job.
And you have a second career as an auctioneer.
Yeah, I guess. Well, we've raised almost $500 doing that.
Very good. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
And I mean, a significant, items. I mean, they're great items. I think they're wonderful. Anyway, good job.
Thank you.
So Michael's going to take the reins next meeting. Whoa.
Yes. I will hopefully be removing some ducks from the air in North Dakota.
When you do that.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Dave.
I have been in touch with Corintha, our Rotaract president.
Okay.
And I'm going to send you email, but of course the university is kind of shut down and they're not having any meetings and anything. So I just wanted you to know that basically that committee, it's not inactive, but it's not very active.
Okay. Would it be, I know she gets copies of my president's message that talks about service projects that we have going. Is there anyone else in that club that I should, send something letting them know some of the service opportunities that we have? That's generally where we have interaction, or where we've had interaction with them in the past.
I think what we need to do, I'm beginning to get the impression, well, first of all, you know how college students are, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is not their primary interest, the Rotaract Club. And right. I'm not sure how good they are at communicating between and among the Rotaract members. So I think what I will do is I will ask Corintha to provide me with a list of all members' email addresses. And then if you send me whatever you want all of those people to have, I will coordinate communication with each and every one of the Rotaract members.
Okay, that's perfect. And in fact, a list of their members, I think, is one of the things that Rotary International is asking from us. So that would be great.
Okay, it's possible that somebody else has done that. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure our student leadership is perhaps, how should I say, business effective.
Okay, okay.
But if you send me what you might need, I will get a list and then I will communicate directly with all the members. And I'm sure we're going to need to identify succession planning for leadership within the Rotaract Club anyhow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. I will get you a list of things we might need. You know,
Okay.
I think that, you know, Lisa Barnes, I think, is still on with us. And I think one of the things she talked about was having, you know, maybe minutes from any of their meetings, but it sounds like that has not been occurring lately.
Yeah. You guys always do video, huh?
Well, we've done, we did do, I would say in the induction was done joint, it was done as a hybrid, and we did a hybrid meeting on 2 meetings ago. We did a hybrid meeting, our first meeting
Yeah.
in October. And it was, you know, quite frankly, not very well attended.
Yeah. Well, these
You
are
know,
tough times. And
these
Lorna,
yeah, these are tough times. You know, I hope that you know, nothing beats meeting in person, but you know, I'm hoping that these Zoom meetings are, you know, at least keep us engaged. We're also trying to do some community service things, you know, that we think can be done in a safe manner.
well, you're doing a nice job with the online stuff because you have a lot of members who are Zooming in. And actually, given the demographic profile of a lot of these members, I think that's impressive.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Joey Rothgary in particular gets the star for really. She's sort of our coach to help people get online and stay engaged. And
Yeah.
you know, and quite frankly, you know, I mentioned it, and I try to mention it as often as I can. You know, I really think the goal for this year is to just remain engaged with each other and remain engaged with the community. And I think that is really what we can hope for.
Yeah, it's probably as good as it gets. I teach at an online university, Walden University.
Right.
We've done away with all FTF meetings. We used to meet like once a month, but because of COVID, we don't interact at all. And I really do. I'm old school. I taught at